Got a call yesterday from a detective here locally after my credit cards were stolen last week from the gym locker. And I don't want to do this, just to be very clear. But the detective, in a roundabout way, basically said, I might be able to blame Joe Biden. I'm not. No.
What are we talking about?
I'm not interested in doing it. I'm just reporting to you what the local detective told me here. So here's what I found out. After these cards were stolen last week out of the locker, they tried to spend $500 at Dollar Tree, got rejected, but got $7,500 worth of stuff at Best Buy up by Oak Park Mall. The detective calls me and she goes, hey, just so you know, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is I've got a photo of the person who used your credit card. The bad news is it's going to be nearly impossible for me to figure out who he is. I'm like, okay, how's this work? She said, well, I think that this person and these people are part of traveling gangs from Eastern Europe. Don't want to say exactly what country they're from because it was speculation when we were talking on the phone yesterday. But she said, oh, yeah, we got it all over the place in Kansas City. They basically hit a bunch of spots, gyms, Paneras, Marshalls. They trick a bunch of old ladies at Marshalls into, turning around, steal the purse. They spend money on the credit cards, and then they're on to their next place. Like, they won't stay in the Kansas City area. They'll go to Wichita, they'll go to Des Moines, they'll go to Oklahoma City, Dallas, whatever. They're just always on the move. And it's gotten a lot worse in recent years. And she goes, a lot of these people are not here in the country legally. So it's not like they've applied, they're in the system. They haven't done any of that. So we just don't know who they are. We have a picture of their face, but we have no information on who these people are. So I'm like, wow, okay. So she goes, yeah, I'm pretty confident that these people are with one of these Eastern European gangs. I'm like, okay. So I asked her, I said, so is this something that's like gotten worse in recent years? And she starts laughing and says, I see what you're going for there. I see what you're trying to get at. Like wondering, okay, did our wide open border the last few years make stuff like this worse, where local law enforcement is trying to solve crimes and literally has zero information on these people because they're not in the country legally. They didn't go through some process where there's information on them. And this is a prime example of why that's just bad public policy, right? And she goes, well, yes. It's absolutely gotten worse. And she obviously didn't want to be hyper political about this, and I respect that. But she goes, every time this happens, and I tell people what's going on around Kansas City, where there are these gangs, and they're oftentimes in the country illegally. They're not all like Central or South American. In this case, these guys are Eastern European. But the point is they're in the country illegally. They're able to commit crimes, and then we don't know who they are, so we don't know how to track them down. And she's like, I talked to other people around Kansas City after, something happens to them, and I explain to them what's going on, and she's like, a light bulb goes off. And they're like, whoa, this is bad public policy. Suddenly it's like, wait, you mean we shouldn't just flood a border with tens of millions of people and hope it works out for the country? Whoa.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know. What a just novel concept, John.
Now NIMBY means now it's in my backyard.
Yes. Now it's in my backyard. Yes. It's like everyone is like, all right, sure. Not everyone, but a lot of people, especially in parts of Johnson County, who are mad at ICE and Homeland Security. Suddenly it happens to them. And they're like, wow, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe there are consequences to not knowing who 10 to 15 million people are wandering around the country. Even though most are probably good people trying to do the right thing, it's still bad public policy. Because you've got millions of folks, no one knows who they are, law enforcement can't identify them. So she's like, I guarantee you this guy's not in town anymore. But obviously your case is going to basically stay open. Eventually it will go inactive. And we just have to hope this guy gets arrested somewhere. And then as they start tracing back what he's done, hopefully it comes back onto my desk. And I appreciated her calling me and telling me what's going on. She said most people in your shoes don't open and even file a police report because they're just like, you know what? I'm going to get my money back from my credit card company, and I'm just going to move on with my day. So most people don't even file the police report. I chose to do that. I thought it was the right thing to do. Not because I thought they were going to find him right away and arrest him. I was hopeful of that. But it was more because I just thought, you know what? They've got to know what's happening here.
Yeah, you create a paper trail for them to work with.
Exactly. And that is my hope at this point, that they've got a paper trail on this guy, and now they've got something to work with going forward that hopefully will help get this guy caught. And I was telling the girls last night about this at the dinner table, and they've got so many questions. It's just amazing to listen to 6 and 4-year-old kids try to decipher what's going on. Dad, why doesn't he get a job? Because he's a bum and he doesn't want to work. That's why he wants to steal from people. That's why this guy did what he did. That's why he stole those credit cards from my gym locker last week. But it's amazing how much this is happening. She's like, oh, yeah, these guys are hitting gyms all the time around Kansas City. And then they're fleeing the area. They're going on to their next city, and they're just not getting caught. And by the way, the cost of these credit card companies is real, too. The credit card companies just take care of this, thank goodness. I said, do I have to, report anything to American Express or anything like that? They're like, no, they'll take care of it. I'm like, gosh, dang, how much money are they losing on this stuff? It's not a good deal for anybody. So that's where that stands. And once again, the moral of the story on my end to you, and she said this to me, we see it all the time. If you go to the gym, lock that locker. But even so, try to leave as much personal stuff out of that locker as you can. Because sometimes they'll even just break into some of these lockers. And that's a real bad deal. But she says she's seen that as well. Now, speaking of things happening here, we've got a new statement from the Kansas City Royals on the possibility of them moving to the Aspiria Sprint campus in Overland Park. Kansas City Star has the statement from Sam Mellinger, Royals spokesperson, yesterday, saying, contrary to a recent report of a deal between Aspiria and the Royals affiliate who holds the mortgage on the Aspiria campus, there is no deal. We continue to work together constructively towards a positive solution. Adding here in this very same statement, when we determine we have something to report, whether about this site or any other site under consideration for a new stadium, rest assured you will hear it directly from us. Rest assured. If there's one thing I'm rest assured on with the Kansas City Royals, it's that their communication blows. That's the only thing I'm rest assured on when it comes to the Royals and stadium conversations. Trust me, I am not rest assured that I'll hear anything from the Kansas City Royals on their stadium plans because they've blown through half a dozen of their own deadlines over the last couple of years, John.
Go ahead and take the Ambien then.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's what you should do. And we should all be doing that on this story because they're not getting any goodwill with the public. I'm not saying we got to know about every conversation they have. But the way that they have played this thing so close to the vest, with such a lack of transparency when the process began in the winter of 2021, 2022, with a listening tour to include the public and have these broad-based conversations and be transparent, man, that feels like a lifetime ago. And now to put out statements being like, you know what, don't worry, when we know, you'll know. Jeez, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night, guys. Jeez, come on with that. You got to be kidding me. So we'll just keep waiting, and we'll see what happens.